Welcome to the Big Four Accounting Firms podcast, brought to you by big4accountingfirms.com. This is episode 52. And today we'll be discussing Deloitte ditching their existing diversity programs. Deloitte recently announced they will be getting rid of their affinity diversity groups as they exist today. And one of the reasons for this is that they said that millennials and other people don't like being identified into just one group. And these diversity groups are also called affinity groups. And these groups tend to empower minority groups such as African American, Latinos, LGBTQ causes, as well as women. And their origins can be traced back to the 1960s with race riots and the need to integrate diverse people into the workforce. And most corporations have these diversity groups that champion diversity. And I know that many of the Big Four include participation in these groups as part of performance requirements. So it's interesting to think that Deloitte is getting rid of this. And there's varying reports as to why they're getting rid of it. Like I said before, one of them is said to be that millennials don't like to be identified as just one thing. For example, if you're a Latino woman who's LGBTQ, you don't want to just have to go to a women's group or an LGBTQ group. You want to feel more included. You don't want to feel divided up into these singular groups. Another reason Deloitte is ditching their diversity programs is that most of their leaders are still old white men. And they are still old white men despite having these groups and despite having measures promoting diversity, inclusion, and promoting the promotion of diverse people. And the purpose of the development of these diversity groups in the Big Four was to help promote people to levels of leadership. Then those people would help promote other diverse people in future years. And it seems that Deloitte is throwing in the towel in these groups because they have been around for decades and have not accomplished what they were set out to accomplish. And this is partially due to limited awareness that these groups create. People have to participate in these groups to learn more. The groups are not catered to white leadership, so white leadership does not participate. Additionally, people tend to favor employees that think and look like them. White leadership tends to promote white people that think and look like themselves. And Deloitte is also said to be ridding themselves of these groups because it isolates these diverse people from the rest of the population at Deloitte. And Deloitte wants these people included within their company. So by getting rid of these separate groups, Deloitte can start working on including them within their workforce. And I know that corporations have been championing diversity for a long time because I've been reading a lot of Scott Adams material lately. Scott Adams is creator of Dilbert, and he speaks about a time in the 80s and early 90s where a corporation implemented measures to stop promoting white men and instead actively promoted diverse and minority people. The Big Four have always struggled with diversity, and I think they will continue to. I mean, look at PwC. Their chairman, Tim Ryan, has to establish campaigns telling his employees to remove their biases in PwC's Get For Real About Diversity initiative. In that campaign, Tim Ryan acknowledges that his employees have biases, and he tells them to actively work on removing them. And I think that's what Deloitte is trying to move to as well. It's trying to get people to remove their biases and educate them about the diverse people in the workforce instead of creating these separate groups where all these minorities and diverse people can get together and network and try to help each other out. Now it's more of trying to educate the white leadership to integrate all these people into the workforce. Because before, these members of white leadership never really learned more about the minorities in the workforce and these diverse people across the firm. They just stayed siloed off by themselves and only promoted people that look like them. I wanted to take a break today to tell you about our sponsor. Today's sponsor is Right Networks. Right Networks is a hosting solution for forward-thinking CPA firms, accounting professionals, and small and mid-sized businesses who want to move to the cloud. Right Networks gets your current accounting-based desktop and legacy applications into the cloud, so it's easier and more secure to share sensitive documents and data with your clients. This new flexibility allows you to cost-effectively grow your business and even reach new geographies. We know your reputation is on the line, so go with a solution that is backed by Intuit. Now, back to the show. Now, I wanted to talk about my experience in the Big Four and how I see diversity within the Big Four and my experience with diversity. My experience in the Big Four is that they always talk a lot about diversity, but it is rarely implemented correctly. And the point of diversity is to create a workplace of inclusion. And the purpose of inclusion is to encourage different thoughts and different people, no matter what their race or color or religion is. And different thoughts and different people prevent companies from becoming obsolete and just doing the same old thing. And the problem with the Big Four is that they are big on doing the same thing, and you are rewarded for fitting in. If you question the way leadership is doing things, you are often ostracized. And the people that typically succeed in the Big Four are the people that typically look like and agree with management. I've seen people excluded from success based on their race and based on their religion. I'm saying this because those people that were different or diverse or minorities were just as qualified or more qualified than others that got promoted that look like members of leadership. This is because of hidden biases that leadership has. That is another problem with all these changes and programs around diversity at the Big Four accounting firm. It is often left to the staff to adopt these measures while leadership takes a high-level approach. If the Big Four want to see real changes around diversity, then they need to force all their partners and all of their leadership to go to extensive diversity training. They also need to implement ways to measure progress on diversity. They need to make sure that groups aren't discriminating against diverse people. Groups tend to give low performance ratings to diverse people, and those diverse people end up leaving. But no one looks at these metrics or no one creates these metrics because these groups paper the HR files to make these people look like idiots. So people don't say they're getting rid of this person because he looks different. They say this person is a poor performer, isn't smart, isn't the bottom 5% of this group, and people just take that on face value versus analyzing, okay, who has been coached out of this group over the years, and is there a commonality in race or religion? Because if there is, then we need to make sure that these people aren't just getting rid of minorities and other people who disagree with them. They need to be adopting inclusion measures and diversity measures. If certain groups in the Big Four consistently give diverse people low ratings, then something needs to be done, and the leaders need to be changed. For example, if the metrics that I was speaking about before show that groups are discriminating against certain people, then the leadership in that group needs to be changed. The leadership needs to get changed, or they need to get rid of those leaders. Because if you've made it all the way to a partner in the Big Four and you don't understand what inclusion and diversity is all about, then you don't deserve to be there. Because that's part of integrity and ethics, is listening to people that don't look like you. And if you're all the way at partner or in leadership and you don't understand that, and I think it's going to be hard teaching you that. And that's really a hard decision to make, is to get rid of these people and to move these people around, because that is a big change. But that's where integrity and ethics comes in. And these are the values of the Big Four champion all the time. And if it's in their values and they're going to take credit for those values, then they need to be held to a higher standard. And so do the partners and so do the leaders. And that's where this change around diversity is going to be made. It's not going to be made of getting rid of affinity groups or implementing a new training program. Because unfortunately, that training program will only make its way to the staff, and the staff will learn about it, and the partners will not. The partners will stick their head in the sand, and they won't pay attention to the emails in their inbox. I'm waiting for the news release that comes out that says senior members of leadership are forced to take 40 hours of training per year to learn about diversity. That's when I'll start believing that diversity is being taken seriously and it will be properly adopted by the firm, because it's all about the tone at the top in the Big Four, because that's where all the rules come from, the tone at the top within each group. And the only way that's going to change is by forcing training down these partners' throats and creating accountability through metrics that show that they aren't discriminating against minorities and diverse groups. Well, that's all we have for today. Thanks for listening. Make sure to visit our website, big4accountingfirms.com. Make sure to subscribe to this podcast and share it with a friend. Thanks.